Well, hello to all of our participants. Welcome to our first class preview here in ITGL Class Preview Week. We are today doing a class preview of the Global Leadership course. My name is Serena Stewart. I am Associate Director of Admissions here in the School of Education, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to the first of our class previews here this week. So here on the first slide is just a lot of photos of ITGL students across the Johns Hopkins campus. You'll see graduation, hackathon, orientation. So these are just a lot of the moments that our ITGL students get to participate in as they move throughout their program. So here in class preview week, we're starting today with the global leadership class. But if you would like to join in some of our other classes, we do invite you back. Same time, 8 a.m. Eastern time. I'm sure it is different times for you all across the globe. Each day this week. So today we're doing global leadership. Tomorrow we'll be doing advanced instructional strategies. Then on Wednesday, introduction to global trends in education. And then on Thursday, we'll do introduction to language and culture in TEFL. So that is just a preview of what we have going on this week after our focus area webinars that we did in the month of February into the early March. So here at ITGL, we believe that education is for everyone and education experts belong in all sectors. We really want global innovative leaders in business, ed technology, education policy, governments, nonprofits, all across the globe. The ITGL program is an intensive educational experience, and the candidates of our program, we really want to give them the opportunity to experience knowledge across the most important aspects of education. So today's class, you'll see in a moment, is one of the ITL core classes, but the ITL core classes are in many different areas. Some of them are in entrepreneurship, some of them are in mind-brain teaching. So you're getting a lot of experience across the most important aspects of education. You'll get informed global perspectives of educational trends and research that are relevant to today and today's global landscape of education. There's targeted expert knowledge in your selected focus area. ITGL has 6 different focus areas. We covered a lot of them in our previous webinars, but of course, across the curriculum, you will get your selected more expert knowledge in that one focus area. And then across the 11-month intensive program, you also have the ability to build a professional portfolio and experience what we call extended learning. These placements are kind of like mini internships, and they are designed for our students to get real world experiences and apply what they're learning directly in their ITGL courses. So this slide here just gives you a broader picture, a high level of your ITGL experience. So first we have the ITGL core courses. Like I explained earlier, those courses are all across different important aspects of education, whether that be policy, leadership, mind-brain teaching, entrepreneurship, education technology. And then there's your focus area courses. You'll take 3 courses typically in TEFL. It's three credit courses plus 2 additional 1 credit courses in your focus areas. And then we have those applied experiences that we call extended learning. And then you build your portfolio at the end. So that's a snapshot of what the ITGL curriculum looks like. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over for to our instructor for your class, and she's going to share a little bit more about herself before we get into our class.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica Guglielcello. I am a senior lecturer here in the School of Education. I am the advisor to the Creative and Innovative Focus Area, and new this year, I actually am advising our digital age teaching and learning technology students. I also am the advisor to our International Student Association. I am so super excited to have all of you here today, and let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to Global Leadership Class Preview. I am so glad that you have joined us today. I do want to share that I have a few of my current global leadership students who have joined me here today to participate in our discussion. So I want to thank them. Us. Before we get started, I would love if everybody could please enter their name in the chat and where you're joining us from. And my current students, if you could please not only put your name, but also add your focus area, that would be great. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to do that.
And for our panelists, as you are putting this information in the chat, just make sure you select that it's going to everyone and not just to the hosts and the panelists, because we want everyone to be able to see that information. You can go ahead and put the answers in the Q&A if you don't have access to our chat function.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you want to just go ahead and put it in the Q&A, that would be great. Good. And as you see, my current students, I have Vidi with me, and she is in our TEFL focus area. And we also have How You, and she is in our Entrepreneur in Education focus area. So great. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move forward. So good. Tianyi Chen. Good. Undecided, and you're joining from Beijing, and that's okay. You don't have to be decided. We just want to know kind of where you're coming from, which is kind of great. So I'm excited for today because my goal really is to, and Serena, if you wouldn't mind going back for just 1 second, sorry about
Oh,
that.
sure.
Um, that's okay. So good. We have another student joining us from Shanghai, interested in entrepreneurship. Great. So connection with How You. So I want to just start by saying this. My goal for today is to really simulate what our global leadership class is truly like when you step foot in the classroom. And global leadership is a spring semester course. So both Vidi and How You are taking global leadership right now this semester. And I really want to give you an idea of what it will be like if you take this course. So when you come into global leadership each Thursday in the spring, because we always run global leadership on Thursdays, you're going to be met with our opening slide. And our opening slide will always have the class that you're in. It will have the instructor's, name and information. And we always start with a quote. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Ronald Reagan, who is the former president of the United States. And Ronald Reagan says that the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He's the one who gets the people to do the greatest things. And we always start with a quote that grounds us in what we're actually going to do for the entire session. So I just want you to take a second and I want you to really think about that quote. Think about what Ronald Reagan is truly trying to tell us through his quote. So, Vidi, how you? I'm going to ask either one of you to just tell me, what is Ronald Reagan trying to tell us? Is the leader the person who's supposed to be doing everything?
After reading this, I feel like the greatest leader probably can get the people let them want to do the greatest things and empower them to want to do the greatest things and also encourage them, I think.
Yes, how you said two really important things. Empower and encourage. You come to us in ITGL and you come into global leadership, that we don't want you as the leader to be doing everything. We want to empower you. Thanks, Serena. I want to move to the next slide. Great. And we always have an agenda. So our agenda for our time together today is pretty simple. I always say our agenda is simple, but my students can tell you we cover a lot in a small amount of time. But I'm going to go over really quickly, who am I? I'll do a course overview so you understand what our course is about. Then I'm going to give you a really nice global leadership preview, and then we'll go over any closure and questions before I turn it back over to Serena. So, my next slide is just who am I? I know that I kind of introduced myself and I know that I, said who I was, but I really want to give you a sense of who I am. So, Guglielcello is a very long name. So, my students actually call me Miss G. That's what they refer to me as. And yes, I'm a senior lecturer here in the School of Education. I primarily teach in the Global Leadership course. I teach in ITGL. I joined the faculty back in 2008. I am the advisor for the creative and innovative focus area in digital age this year. But there's more to me than just that. I am actually a proud member of the team that created the ITGL program. As you'll see on the screen, the picture there is a picture of us with our very first cohort of 15 students. So I'm very proud to say that I've been with ITGL before it even began, when it was just an idea. So I'm also in the middle there. I am a recipient of the JHU Excellence in Teaching Award. So that's a picture of me and Dean Morphew in May of 2024 when I received that award at graduation. And finally, the number one thing that I am, if you ask any ITGL student, is I am a teacher, an advisor, I'm a mentor, and I am a supporter of all ITGL students. So the picture there is a picture of me and my students at graduation, because that is my favorite, where I get to see my students walk across that stage at graduation, where I get to meet their families, where I really get to celebrate them and celebrate their success. And as you can see, my smile is just as bright as my students' smile, because it's just one of my favorite days. So again, I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you if you decide to join us in ITGL, which I hope that you do. So I want to start off just, I know it's a little boring, but I do want to start off just by going over the course description. I'd like you to please just take a minute and read the course description on the screen. So as I said, global leadership is offered every spring, and in the spring semester, we embark on a leadership journey together. And I see how you kind of shaking your head as I said that. Students come into ITGL and they're like, no, I know all about what leadership is. I've got this. But I always ask the question, do you truly know what leadership is? So we take the time to not only learn about leadership, but also learn about who you are as a leader and who you will be as a leader. And that's really what our journey is about in the spring semester. So, our journey of leadership really begins with an introduction to leadership. And we spend a class session really exploring what does it mean to be a leader, because we need that foundation in order to move through the rest of our journey. And after we kind of go over our introduction to leadership, what does it mean to be a leader? We go into research perspectives on leadership. You know, you're coming to us, the Johns Hopkins University, which is a top research university. So we need to spend that time really looking at the research around leadership. And we focus specifically on the traits, the behaviors, and the relationships around leadership. And once we've given you that introduction, we've given you what the research says, then we spend a lot of our journey in this middle section. So, Vidi and how you just got finished looking at the personal side of leadership. And, and they've taken some time over the past few weeks to really learn about themselves as a leader. They've taken some self-assessments, they've done some activities to really kind of look at who they are. We do one of my favorite sessions on leadership, mind, and emotion, where we learn what it means to lead with both head and heart. And then we do another really great session around courage, moral leadership, because as leaders, we need to understand what it means to have courage and to act morally when things aren't always going right. I'm excited because now we've moved into the second part of this middle kind of chapter of our journey, and I see Vidi's kind of giggling because she knows what we're doing now. We are talking about the leader as a relationship builder. And this is where I take the course. Students really are taking over the classroom. This past week we just did motivation and empowerment, and the students taught us the different theories of motivation and what they mean to leadership. When Vidi and How You come in this week, they are going to be running the class around leadership communication. And then next week is spring break. So when they come back from spring break, we're going to do sessions on leading teams. We're going to be doing activities about teams and teamwork. We'll then finish out kind of talking about leadership diversity and power and influence. And then finally, we finish out the semester talking about the leader as a social architect, because now that I feel that our students are ready, they know what leadership is, they know who they are as a leader, and they know how to build relationships. They now need to actually be able to do the work of a leader. They need to go out there and they need to create a vision and they need to have strategic direction. So this is the journey that we are on this semester. And I'm so glad that Vidi and How You have joined us today, because they're going to really get to help you see what our classroom looks like. So Serena, I'm wondering with this video if you can start it in at 3 minutes and 28 seconds.
Sure.
So while Serena is bringing up our video, I want to just set the stage for this. So this is Dr. Bertolini. I always use Dr. Bertolini. Bertolini is the Dean of the Purdue Polytechnic Institute, and he is a distinguished professor of computer graphic technology and computer and information technology at Purdue University. He has accepted a new role as Senior Vice President for Purdue Online and Learning Innovation. And in this talk, Dr. Bertolini is going to identify 5 attributes of authentic leadership, and he's going to share is to identify effective leaders. So as you're watching this video, and we're going to watch about 5 minutes of this video, I want you to write down the 5 attributes of authentic leadership that Dr. Bertolini talks about.
The first one, it always starts with the vision. if you do not have a strong vision, nothing else matters. And it always starts with a why. And so if you think about great leaders, Abraham Lincoln, saving the Union, ending slavery. Very simple, right? Very simple and powerful message. Vince Lombardi, win NFL championships. Winning isn't the only everything, it's the only thing, is a quote that he's had. Martin Luther King, it was about turning the society upside down and ending segregation. Very simple message. What's great about Martin Luther King, and it describes every great leader, is he said that he had a vision, right? That what he wanted to do was change the nation. I have a dream. He didn't say, I have a plan, a 12-point plan, right? I have a dream. And he brought people towards that dream. And you can see that over and over again with great leaders, a very simple, powerful message. And it's because it's their vision. They will walk through walls in order to get what they need to do to implement that vision. And so it always starts with the vision. Find something you're passionate about, and that's the way to go. The next one is you have to be optimistic. You have to believe that things will get better no matter how bad they are. Winston Churchill, in the depths of World War II, rallied his nation and was able to save Great Britain. What's interesting is after World War II, he was kicked out of office because his vision didn't align to the post-war Great Britain. So again, the vision wasn't aligned at that point because it was over. The war was done. But you have to fundamentally be optimistic. Churchill, by the way, had fits of depression, but it never got in his way of his optimism toward his vision of saving Great Britain. So you have to be optimistic that things will always be better, and you have to portray that to everyone around you. In other words, the message is always good, even if it's not. This next one is very, very dangerous. But great leaders have to have a big ego. They have to believe that what they believe is right. The problem is some people become egomaniacs because it becomes about themselves and not about the organization that they're trying to change. And that's where the great leaders can start to fail. They can actually start off with a great vision. They can have optimism, but their ego gets in their way. Power corrupts, but they somehow are able to channel their ego into good. This next one I already mentioned a little bit, and that's charisma. Somehow you have to be able to connect with the people that you're involved with, okay? Believe it or not, I'm a very quiet, shy person, okay? But you put me in front of a group like this where I can talk about something I'm passionate, I can become a little bit more charismatic. George Clooney, like, okay? I've been told I look like him, but I know those in the back need to tell it. But you have to have charisma, and you have to use it to sell your ideas. This next one is passion. You can probably tell I'm a little bit passionate. I've been called a preacher at times. You have to show great passion in what you do. And passion is what drives you when things don't go well. It keeps you going internally. And that passion then is brought out to everyone that you're trying to lead, and they just pick up on it. And they will go places that they would never go until that leader stepped into place. And so passion, again, is very, very important. And then finally, you have trust. But the trust is so deep and so great that it turns to faith. That's where you will allow a leader to take you places that you would never have even dreamt about trying before.
There's one major difference between a talk that gets 4,000 views versus a talk that gets
Great.
4 million views. And it's
So
The trust has to be so deep that it's
in
hard.
the chat, hopefully you can see it. In the chat, I have gone ahead and I have put those 5 things that Dr. Bertolini talked about. He talked about vision, he talked about ego, he talked about charisma, he talked about passion, and he talked about trust. And what I want you to do right now, all of you, is I want you to think about the best leader you have known. And I want you to think about which of those 5 attributes of authentic leadership that Dr. Bertolini just went over does this leader demonstrate. So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to think about that leader, and then we are going to come back together and we're going to talk about that. So I'm hoping some of you will unmute. I'm hoping some of you will type in the chat, whatever you're kind of comfortable about. But think about the best leader you've known and which of those 5 attributes does that leader demonstrate? So again, I'm hoping that people feel comfortable, but I am curious if anybody who's joined us would like to actually tell us about their leader and the best leader that they've known and which one of those 5 attributes that leader has demonstrated. Feel free to put it in the chat. You can actually put it in the Q&A, which is fine. If you want to unmute, feel free to do that.
I did open the chat to everyone. I found the setting for that, so hopefully our attendees can write in the chat what they want to share.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vidi, we've gotten to know each other really well over the past few weeks. I know that we have trusted each other, so that's why I'm going to ask you if you would actually share about the best leader you've known and tell me which one of those 5 attributes they demonstrate.
Oh, okay. So when I saw this question, I first think of Oprah Winfrey. She is a Black American woman host. Yeah, she is a very famous interviewer. Uh, I think she is have very strong vision because when you see her interviews, she really know what she wants and what she want to get from this interview. Also, I found she has very strong passion. So when she interview, she's her tone, her sound, you can feel she's very enthusiastic. She show very strong like this to her careers. Also, I think she has a very strong ego as well because like she is very confident woman. Her experience told me like you don't need to care about the other one. You should focus on what you think, what you have, like better identify who we are. And when we focus on ourselves, we can better know what we want. Besides that,
Absolutely. Good job. Keep going, Vidi. Keep going.
from her interview, we can see she showed a strong trust to her interviewers because like she really believe like her interviewers can uh, share his or her experience very well and give very good response. So we can found like she's very carefully listen to others and then give the response. And when we talk about the third features, how to say this word, charisma. Yeah, it is very obvious, like because she is very confident woman, she is like really know what she want. So when she stand her, other one will feel, wow, she's very a confident woman. She is very believable. So other one can want to be her followers. So that's the reason she has win such great reputation in the world. So that's why when I see these questions, I first think of her.
Excellent job, Vidi. And I am here and I am beaming with a smile because Vidi actually picked a leader that we talked about in our seminar and teacher leadership class. So I'm actually super excited that Vidi picked that leader. And not only was she able to talk about Oprah in relation to one of the attributes, but she was actually able to share all five of those attributes. So I am super excited because anytime my students actually bring in the leadership work that we're doing in another class into our leadership class, it always makes me so excited because, the book that we read in our seminar and teacher leadership class has a lot of great leaders. And you're absolutely right, Vidi. When we think of Oprah Winfrey, we really think of that vision, and you're right. She has the right amount of ego, as Dr. Bertolini talks about. She really has to have passion for what she does. That's actually why she was a talk show host because of the passion that she had. She tried to be a news reporter and actually, she went back to a site and gave out blankets after she did a news story. And they're like, no, Oprah, that's not what you're supposed to do. You report and you move on. So excellent. How you? Thank you so much for sharing in the chat. So, one of the things that you'll learn in my class is that I want people to feel comfortable sharing in any way that they would like. So, I don't always require students to speak out loud. I have a lot of opportunities for students to actually be able to write a board or, post something. So, how you shared about Martin Luther King, which again, Dr. Bertolini spoke about, he had that strong passion. And we joke because Dr. Bertolini says, Martin Luther King says, I have a dream. He didn't say he has a 12-point plan. I think if he did that, I don't think people really would have followed him. And you're right, how he believed in a future people would not be judged by color of their skin, but by their character. And he showed that great passion even when he faced, danger, threats, jail, he continued to fight for equity and justice. So I want to thank the both of you because, you have volunteered to come here. I did not pre-share my slides with you. It is a Monday morning here in Baltimore, and it is early. So thank you both for showing up and for taking part. So that's great. And again, I hope you can get the sense from just Vidi speaking and how you and what she added, kind of how our classroom really operates. So this next slide that I want to go over is truly talking about like what is leadership, because before we can examine what makes an effective leader, we really need to know what leadership means. And scholars and other writers, they've offered hundreds of definitions of the term leadership. And there is a scholar, and his name was James McGregor Burns. He concluded that leadership is one of the most observed and least understood phenomena on earth. And really think about that. When we think about leadership, it's the most observed thing that we look at, but it's the least understood. And defining leadership has really been a complex and elusive problem, and largely because the nature of leadership itself is complex. So I want you to take a minute and I want you to read the definition of leadership that's provided in the text that we use in our course. And I would really appreciate if Q&A or in the chat, you could actually chat one word that stands out in that definition to you. What's one word in that definition that stands out to you? Good. Andre and how you both said shared. Good. Vidi said influence and relationship. What other words stand out to you? There's no right or wrong. Good. We've got changes and outcomes. What else? Good. We've got leaders and followers. Good. So we're gonna now break down this definition so that we understand what leadership involves. So Serena, if you would move on. Yep, perfect. So this is it. Exactly what people put in the chat. Influence. There needs to be intention. There needs to be personal responsibility and integrity. Change is a big part of what leadership involves. Shared purpose, which both Andre and how you said, followers that VD put up there, and influence, which is what I kind of started our definition with. So now I'm just kind of curious, when you look at those kind of six, key elements in the definition of leadership, what ones really kind of, are important to you? Which ones do you really, think that are the easiest for you? And which ones do you think are the hardest for you? So I'm going to give you a minute to really just think about, leadership and think about those words that are up on the screen. And then I'm going to ask you to think about which element of the definition is the easiest for you and which element of the definition is the hardest for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Serena to just click the return uh, key, and those two questions will pop up on the screen for you. So, and feel free you can unmute and say which one is easiest and which one is hardest. You can put it in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. Good. I see how her easiest is shared purpose and her hardest is change. Good. And how we've gotten to know each other really well over the past couple of weeks. I just want you to, unmute if you don't mind and share Why is shared purpose the easiest for you?
Because we gr do work, do anything as a group. So I think we have to share the same mission. So we have to share our purpose first so we can work
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, and I see that in you and your core of four that you work with both in our seminar class and in our global leadership class. So, just so everyone understands, I also teach our seminar and teacher leadership, and I teach it across semesters, so I have the privilege of teaching all ITGL students. And in that course, we form what we call a core of four. It's a group of four that we work with throughout the semester. And I see how you and the core of four that she has in seminar happens to be the same group of four that she sits with in global leadership. So I have actually seen her live out this shared purpose. Now, I'm going to ask you because I really have gotten to know you. I'm
Mhm.
surprised that you picked your hardest as change. You mind sharing a little bit about that? I don't see this in you, so I want you to just to explain this to me.
Um, I think change is pretty hard because sometimes, uh, for example, our core four, we got used to that mode, our situation mode. So it's hard to change. We always stuck into that situation. So pretty
Ah,
hard.
okay, okay. So yeah, so thank you for explaining that because I have seen how just adaptable you are in the classroom. So when I saw you put that up, I was just a little intrigued by that. So, and I love that Vidi and I, having gotten to know Vidi, we share personal responsibility and integrity as our easiest one. Just because again, I've gotten to know V and we have a lot of similarities in the way that we like to hold ourselves as leaders. So, Vidi, tell me a little bit more about your hardest influence. Why is that hard for you?
In my mind, like to be a leader, it is very important for us to influence the followers, like uh, how to say, like helps followers listen to you and to support your ideas, and then we can achieve the shared purpose. But sometimes I feel like, for example, in the teamwork, other team members do not really understand what I say, or maybe they are not agreeing with me. So in this situation, we will have some conflicts. So I think at that time, it is very hard for me to influence them, and then we will have difficulties to achieve the shared purpose. So I think influence is quite hard for me. So sometimes I don't know how to speak in high EQ to deal with that because I'm a straightforward person. So sometimes I want to influence. Maybe I speak very straightforward, will cause some misunderstanding, and then the relationship maybe will influence. So I think influence is quite difficult for me. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you both, how you and Vidi, for just letting me kind of call you out and ask you to explain that. So I have a question for all of you. I want you to understand that anyone can be a leader. To become a leader, you have to look for opportunities around you. So I want you to think about this question on the screen, okay? What leadership opportunities have you encountered recently? So I want you to think about that. When you're ready, I would like you to either unmute or I'd like you to put it in the chat. So, what leadership opportunities have you encountered recently?
I think just last week,
Okay, tell me a little bit more about it. What did you do last week?
just last Thursday, we can read the chapter
Mhm.
7 or chapter 8, and we discuss with our groups, and finally our call for find a presenter, and that with me. So yeah, that's the opportunities I encountered recently.
Yes, how you was selected by her group to actually teach the class in global leadership and teach the motivation theory for her group. Each group took a little bit of a different approach, but how you's group decided they wanted to have one person teach it instead of all four. So how you, that's an excellent example of a leadership opportunity that you have encountered recently. I put in the chat this webinar for both VD and How You. This webinar is a leadership opportunity that they've encountered recently, you have encountered recently. Just stick it in the chat. There's no right or wrong answer.
Can I share my experience like this recently?
Yes, VD, I would love it.
But I think my leadership opportunities is very different from what we think. Because when I see this question, I first think about like 2 weeks ago. My parents came to visit me at the end of the November. They just said goodbye to me yesterday night. So 2 weeks ago, we went to Miami and we also go to the Key West. I played the role as an influencer. I made a tour guide make a tour guide like what we go to the first day, what we go to the second day, and how we spend our times in Miami. Yeah, and also I Google the how do you say the routines like the map. So how to go to here to go to there, and my mom is like to she do for to rent the cars because we should drive the car from Miami City to Key West. So at that time, I do the tour guide and to Google that where can we go each days and how to go and how to rent the car, where we can take the car and how to drive to there. And at that time, at the beginning, my parents, as our followers, they do not really understand why we go to Key West. It's like 4 hours drive from Miami City. My dad say, "Oh my God, I'm come here to take rest, not come here to make me tired." And when we arrived from the Miami city, when we arrived in the Key West, my dad said, "Oh my God, I should listen to you. It's a very good places. I can do not go to other places. This one I should go." He really like the northernmost point and see the view is very beautiful. Even though my mom is very tired because she drive nearly 8 hours 2 days, but she's still very happy because she see the beautiful view which she never meets. And after that, when my dad posted the photos on WeChat, my dad's friend asked like whether you should go to the Hemingway house or whether you go to the North Point. My dad said definitely, and my dad said thanks to my daughter, she gives me like this our guy. Yeah.
And Vidi, I so appreciate that you brought that up because, yes, something like that, when we think about leadership, leadership doesn't have to be something big and grand. It doesn't have to be, that you lead a club or that you're the president of something. Um, I love when people look at leadership in everyday life. And yes, Vidi's parents, who I got to meet when they came here, that was a great opportunity for her to step up and say, okay, I'm going to be the tour guide. I'm going to, take the time to plan out everywhere we're going to go. And Vidi and I share that because I just recently went to Key West during the break in January. So we got to, this past week in class, we got to share pictures of, did we go to the same places? So great. And how you, thank you, so much too for just sharing about with your group because you did really step up during class last week. So again, I want you as future leaders to recognize opportunities for leadership, and there are opportunities every day. Every single one of you who is here today in this webinar, that's a leadership opportunity. You have said, hey, I'm gonna, be here and I'm gonna learn more about this ITGL program and this global leadership class. So, you want to look for those opportunities to act and influence and bring about changes for a better future. So Vidi, did it with her family. People said, did you go to the southernmost point? point. What about Hemingway's house? So, her dad was able to post that. So I have to tell you that there is an art and a science to leadership, okay? Because there's an age-old question that's asked, are leaders born or are leaders made? And I need to tell you that leadership truly can be learned, but it's also important to remember that leadership is both an art and a science. It's an art because many leadership skills and qualities cannot be learned from a textbook. But leadership also takes practice and it takes hands-on experience. Hearing VD and how you talk about their two leadership opportunities, that really is that hands-on, that's practice. You also need to have intense personal exploration and development. Leadership is also a science in that there's a growing body of knowledge and objectives and facts that describe the leadership process and how to use leadership skills to attain organizational goals. So, when we think about the science of good leadership, it can be learned from a textbook. And the art of good leadership requires that experience. And here on the screen is how you can learn to be a good leader. It includes both learning and practicing skills. And here are some tips that you can use to begin honing your leadership skills. Practicing the acts of leadership in your everyday life, being like how you, saying, okay, I'm going to speak for my group, or being like VD and saying to your parents, hey, let me plan that trip. I can do it. Emulating successful leaders. We heard Dr. Bertolini talk about Martin Luther King. VD shared about Oprah Winfrey. Emulating those type of leaders. Finding a mentor to provide feedback. One of my favorite days of the week for me personally is Tuesdays, because every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock, I meet with a former ITGL student who I am actually her mentor. And for an hour, we just get to talk about kind of what she's experiencing in her new leadership position over in Hong Kong. Complete a leadership course to improve skills. So if you come to ITGL, you will be taking global leadership. So we will help you improve your skills around leadership. As you can see from BD and How You, they are outstanding examples of leaders. And they are only in week 8 this week of our 15-week course, but you can see how wonderful they shine as leaders. And you can also work to personal traits of empathy and patience. And I share that with my students all the time that, empathy and patience are two things that I work on a daily basis. So just wanted to make sure that you really got a full kind of picture of how my class is. I always start with that opening slide. I always have an agenda slide, and I always have a closure and question slide. So this is where I let my students know what we're going to be doing in the next class, what they need to do for the next class. And then I always end with, what are your questions? What questions can I answer for you? So I'm going to leave that for a minute. And if there is anybody out there who's joined us today who has a question and would like to ask that question about global leadership, please feel free to go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we'll answer that before Serena takes over and goes over some just admissions related things. But what are your questions? What questions can I answer for you about global leadership? This is the time in class I always joke and say, wow, I did such an amazing job that you have no questions about global leadership. So, all right, we'll hang around in case VD, how you and I will hang around in case you do have any questions that you would like to ask us. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Serena.
Great. Thank you to Ms. G and to VD and how you. And yes, please, as I'm speaking, if a question pops up, definitely put it in the chat. So switching gears here a little bit, I do want to talk a little before we end our webinar today about the admissions requirement for the ITGL application. Currently, we are still accepting applications for fall of 2026. To apply to the program, you need to complete the online application form. You can find that link on our website on the admissions page. There is an $80 application fee to submit your application. And then in addition to that online form, you'll need to give us some supporting documentation. You'll need to upload your resume or your CV with any educational experiences, leadership experiences, research experience that you might have from your undergrad, or if you are recently graduated, anything you've had since graduation. You'll need to upload the essay. You can find the essay prompt within the application. 2 letters of recommendation are required. We ask that one letter come from a professor or an instructor who is familiar with your performance in the classroom, as well as somebody additional. You can have that be 2 instructors. You could do maybe an advisor or an internship supervisor or something like that. Either your official transcripts if you've studied inside of the United States, or if you've studied internationally, you'll need an official course-by-course evaluation of those credentials. So either your official transcripts or those official evaluations. And then for students who are not U.S. citizens or permanent residences, or have not studied full time in an English speaking country, then you would need to submit proof of English language proficiency, whether that be through the TOEFL, the IELTS, or the Duolingo exams. More information about all of this can be found on our website. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. So just a really quick timeline. Right now, as I mentioned, you can still apply. The application deadline for fall of 2026 closes on April 30th. So we are moving ever closer to that application deadline. Decisions, however, are being released on a rolling basis. Many of you already have your offer of admission for fall of 2026. You've accepted your offer, and we're so excited that you'll be joining us this fall. But there is still time to apply, and we're still going to be continuing to release those offers on a rolling basis. There's 2 enrollment deposits. The first one is due 2 weeks after you accept your offer, and then the final deposit is due on June 15th. So that's all I had for you today. Please stay connected to me and the ITGL program. You can contact me with any admissions related questions at soe-apply.jhu.edu. And then you'll see Dr. Jennifer Adams here as well. She is our director of the ITGL program. Her email address is listed in case you have any specific questions. And then there's always the ITGL cohort site to stay in contact with our ITGL ambassadors and other professors in the program. So we'll stay on for just 1 minute to see if anyone else has any additional questions. We are at time, but I want to give you the ability still to ask questions, and just thank you so much for your time to watch this webinar, to participate in the chat. We really appreciate you for being here today.
And I just want to say thank you to Vidi and How You very much for taking the time to be with us today. Andre, thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss G.
Thank you, How You.
Have a nice day.
Yes, thank you, Vidi. Thank you, How You.
Bye.
All right, we're going to close our webinar for today. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week.
Thank you.